Okay, guys, good afternoon. Welcome back. We'll be finishing up arrays and collections today. So we did one lesson before your midterm, right? Therefore, the midterm asked you to use a combo box. And the easiest way, I saw many variations, but the easiest way to use a combo box is to use the selected index property, something that we've done in class. It's the easiest. It's an integer. You don't have to worry about, or should I be using two equals to compare strings? Should I be using the equals method? Nothing. You just check whether something was chosen from the combo box. And you should always change the style of the combo box if you need only selection from the combo box, right? So if I need this text box to my disposal, the user must be able to type in something for whatever purpose, then you leave the drop-down style to its default, which is drop-down. If you want to change it and make it only selection, which I asked in the exam, then you make it a drop-down list style. Okay, then the user can only select from it but cannot enter anything in it. So that's the easiest way to work with a combo box. Use its selected index property, which is an integer. So if it is -1, nothing was selected. Otherwise 0, 1, 2, 3, you can never go wrong, right? But many of you chose to kind of take the text property of the combo box, which is what it is, and then compare it with whatever you were doing, like addition, subtraction, and whatever. You can make mistakes there. One, luckily for you, many of you, maybe not many, couple of you didn't even know it, but in C#, you can use the 2 = to operators to compare strings, not in Java, right? In Java, you can't compare two strings with the 2 = signs, but C# allows it. So for students who didn't know, but kind of tried it, it worked. And I know they didn't know of it because the rest of many things were not working. So I know it was just a guess. But a better method to work whenever you're working with objects and you want to compare the contents of the objects, it's the equals method with variations, of course. There are overloads and can you ignore the case and so on. You can do many more things with it, right? And you've misspelled it, the subtraction, it won't work, right? Now, and there's something else that maybe I saw it in one exam. You write addition in your combo box. For example, this combo box is, I've populated it with the collection. Now, notice how I don't have any blanks after any of my names. But if I put a blank here, now it is chocolate almond blank. And now if you compare it only with the chocolate almond, it won't work. It will say it's false. Why? Because you didn't trim it. So you can make these silly mistakes and then the program doesn't work and then it's all panic in an exam, right? In a combo box, the easiest way, and you could have used it because I didn't ask anything of it. All I said was which was selected. So use the selected index. No string comparison, no problems if you kind of misspell it here, nothing. Like, those small silly things don't matter. So that is the easiest way, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to give you marks, but I'm just telling you that's the easiest way. But otherwise with the combo box, there are properties. The .text property is what's in the text box. .selected item is what you've selected, the item. Again, it could be a string, it could be a number. So again, you have to think all those things out when you do it. So I am marking your midterm. I'm kind of 1/3, I think. I think I have around 60 copies. And I can only do, even if I try my best, do 6 hours a day, I can only do 10. That's the maximum, right? Half hour, but that's all I can do. So I'm on my target. I just started yesterday, but I won't be able to do it every day. But I'll try to finish it before the 2 weeks, kind of before the due date that you can drop your courses. It's 15th of December, something, right? So I'll definitely give you your marks before that, so that you have an idea. So I'm kind of, as I said, I've finished 20, but it will take time. It just takes time. Sometimes Mondays and Tuesdays, because I teach late, I have morning 4 hours at my disposal, so I can do it. Okay, so I'm marking that. You haven't done too bad, thinking that you were off for 5 weeks, but to be very truthful, I had given you an example on Blackboard. That example was up there for 7 weeks. I had asked you the same kind of thing, taking 2 inputs and giving me error messages, and I haven't yet seen more than 2 100% out of 20, 100% error checking. I haven't. And it's not tough. You have the solution from me. Nobody turned up asking. I assumed you were going to just read through it. Again, I gave on the midterm, please go through the solution, but I don't know. I know there's a lot going on in everybody's because of those 5 weeks. But if there is an exam and you have a solution, how long does it take to look through the solution? Like nothing. half hour, right? And you're still making the same mistakes that you did in assignment 3. That feedback was back to you. I had given you the right solution. I had given you almost the same kind of question in the midterm. Take 2 inputs and validate them. Only 2, I think, out of 20, I've done it 100% right. That's up to you. In the long run, you know what? You want to be programmers, I'm sure you will learn, right? And as I said, with what's going on, I understand it. But you know, then if you have everything like in your hands and you still don't use it, then of course it's something that you're not doing right. Right? So please pay more attention. And it's not only about C#, it's about every programming language. You have to validate your input. How can you not validate your input? And you have to validate it correctly. Just telling the user your input string is not in the right format, does it make sense to a common user? When you're trying to say that number 1 is missing. See the difference between the two? Or the number 1 cannot be not a numeric, it has to be a number. And just saying input string is not in the correct format, look at the difference between the two. And that's what you have to learn. Think of yourself, oh, if I'm the user, what would I expect if I use something and there is an error and that's what it says? Will it make sense to me? No, right? Think of driving a car and there is something wrong and all that comes on your screen, if your car is low on oil level and all that comes is something is wrong with the car. How helpful is that? Right? Same kind of concept. Therefore, I say I need to see separate error messages. You should tell me what is wrong. One number is wrong, 1 is right, and you're saying both numbers should be in this format. But my 1 number is right. You know what I'm trying to say? Are you confusing me or am I wrong? So you can't do that. I mean, you have to become good programmers if you want to be programmers. That's what the main thing is. So I'm trying my best. And again, I'm trying to be very liberal in marking, just for the reason that we had a break, and I understand your situation. I'm in the same boat. Like after 5 weeks, it took me 2 days to come back to normal. It did. I had to spend the weekend. On Friday, we were told classes start Monday, and Saturday, Sunday, I was just doing C# because I had to come back in action too. So it's for everybody. But you have to put in the effort, right? You have to. I mean, how can you not do it? And for an exam, I can't even think, like, how can you let it go? Anyway, so there are small, silly things. I'm trying my best to give you my feedback. If you don't understand my feedback, you can always come back to me. But I'm hoping by another week, I should be able to finish up all the midterms, right? So it will take time. Of course, it will.
Blackboard that we have quiz today or something like that?
I said 12. Tuesday section is December 12.
Okay.
Right? That is when you finish today, next week. I've already told you, I'll again clarify. When you finish a chapter with me, the week after, the first half hour we'll have a quiz. If I can make up a good quiz, that's another challenge, right? I just don't want you to answer true or false or stuff like that. Or you'll have a very short in-class practical. But I'm trying to avoid the practicals now because of time problem. Though I did 3 of them before the break, as you know, they've all been marked. But now I can't do it because of time constraints. So I would love to do practical in a practical course, you know, like in a programming course. So I've made a few questions, 20 or 25, I forget now, I think around 25. I've made up questions. You'll come to the class. We'll begin exactly at the hour. I'll give you half hour to do it. You'll do it, and that's your in-class assignment.
So that would be like from the PowerPoint slides that you put on?
Arrays and collections, that's also on Blackboard. I've already said from the chapter on arrays and collections and whatever I do in class on arrays and collections, right? I've already done 1 class of arrays and collection before your midterm. I'm kind of doing more today. So these 2 classes together and your chapter 8, if you have the book, good. If you don't have the book, PowerPoint slides on Blackboard, whatever makes sense to you. Anything like anything on this is what I'm going to ask. Okay, and I'll make multiple choice. I won't make fill in the blanks or true false, because fill in the blanks again, there's always a problem of silly errors, right? So I'll try to make it multiple choice, but more in a programming style, like write a for loop for this, right? Things like that, or what is the error in this, or what should be the type of the variable to which this value is assigned, or what is the null type. All these are in the chapter 8. Okay, so questions like something that if you have done something by hand, like whatever I've done, you should be okay. Okay, and if you're listening to what I'm saying in class. And again, if you're not, YouTube videos will take you again 3 hours to listen again, but it's up to you if you would like to just listen. When I speak in class, I do say things that I necessarily am not doing because I cannot do it in my exam. Okay, So that is what we will do for the rest of the 3 chapters that you have to cover. Your last chapter may cause a little problem because then you have that 2-week break. We'll come to that when we come to that. For now, you'll have a quiz next week. And whatever you learn that week, the quiz will be up.
In this year, so we have 3 quizzes.
So, yeah, your third quiz is a little dicey. That's the problem with your section because you're running a week behind. So maybe, I don't know, I'll just have to take home and give you half hour for it and that's it. Something like that. I'll have to manipulate that. Right? So we'll come to that.
So if we have to write statements, are they going to be multiple choice?
Yes, you'll have to look for multiple choice. You'll have to choose one from them. They're all multiple choice. Right? So there's nothing to memorize, but if you've done it, you've done it. You know what I mean? Like, if you've practiced stuff, you should know it. So those will be kind of obvious. Okay? Okay, so your quiz is next week. Okay? And what I'm going to do today is more work on combo box. And I've also added a list box here. Please notice. I've added a few things here, more menu items here. And this is what we are going to work on today. And just because you haven't done it again for a while and you may see it again in exam, I'll show you how to create an about form. Splash screen. I've placed an example on Blackboard of creating a splash screen. Again, please look at it if you have time. But again, splash screen is no big deal. We have to use a timer for it. But timer is not the true thing. I mean, timer is you are kind of deciding how much time my application will take to load. So you can always revert back to the old Visual Basic way. And in there, what happened was Visual Basic in that environment, in that language, it kind of recognizes itself that, oh, my main program is loading, and then I should stop the splash screen. I've given that example also on Blackboard. Okay, and I think I discussed it before the strike. I'm sure you've forgotten it, but the example is on Blackboard. Okay, I picked it up from the MSDN site. It's a neat example. But yes, that it still stays that you will have to, if you want to show a splash screen, you will have to create a timer. And you will have to kind of decide, do I want this to be on my screen for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, assuming you know that the main application is going to take that much time to come up. So unfortunately, there is no automatic way of doing it. Oh, main is coming. The system should be smart enough to take away the splash screen. You still have to do it yourself using the timer. Though there is in Visual Basic, and I've given that example too on Blackboard.
I have a question. When I click on the more copy designer.cs, it just shows me the code. It doesn't actually show me the, I guess, UI.
This one?
Yeah.
You have opened the designer.cs file.
Yeah.
No, that's not the one you open. You open the .cs file. The designer has code. The designer has the code for this. This file, if you want to bring it up, you should be double clicking on that complicated .cs file.
Yeah.
And now if you want to see the code of this file, you can go view and code. Okay, the designer will only have code. The designer.cs has the code for this file. Okay, so today's job, as I said, I'll start with about. I'll refresh your memories because about was easy. I said I'll just show it to you because about is something that you may be asked. I don't know. Again, final exam right now kind of sits. Will it be a practical or will it be again multiple choice? I have no clue right now. One thing at a time. We've done the midterm, we'll do assignments, and then when the time comes, we'll talk about that, right? Anything that works for everybody. Okay, so now for about how to create a new form. If you're creating a multi-form project, which you did again before the strike, but just so to give you a picture, all you have to do is you go to a project, you say add a Windows form, and you choose what, so under Visual C#, of course, you can choose whatever you like from here, right? So we usually use a Windows form if we want, but notice there's an about box. There is already a template for an about form if you like. An about form is usually a form that comes up that gives you information about maybe the programmer and the company for which the application belongs to, right? That's what an about is. But you can always start with an empty Windows form and you'll get just a form like you do when you start a project. So if you were creating a splash screen, you would choose Windows form, remove its border and everything, just make it like a splash screen and then put a timer with it. That's what you would do. If I have time in the end, I'll do it for you, okay? But for the about box, all you do is take this. And again, I wouldn't like to call it about box. Do not forget your conventions, please. There were marks in the exam also. And I had written, I'm not sure whether it was your section or was the other section, but I had written the 3-letter label here, FRM for form, CBO for combo box, and so on. They were here just so that you know. And whatever convention you're following, I'm not forcing you to follow my convention. If you're going to write the complete names, form and combo box and text box, but follow one convention. You can dance in the same application and make up your own mind, you know. You can create your own abbreviations. Combo box is CBO, you can't call it CMB. So like you just have to follow them, whatever you like. I have stuck to this one. I start my form name with FRM and I'll call it about because it makes sense. I could call it about us, you know what I mean? But it's something about, I could call it information, anything that makes sense. And I'll say add. What happens is, since this template is predefined, this is what comes up, right? And again, there is nothing new in it. This is just, if you kind of click on it, notice it's a picture box. Do you notice in the properties? It's a picture box. These are just labels. And look, notice how they've given them names. There is a little different from my convention. They've used the word label, the whole word label, not the 3-letter, which is perfectly fine. The company name is again a label. This is a text box. It should be a rich text box. Okay, no, it's just a multi-line text box. It could have been a rich text box, right? And what you see here, this product name version, what it is trying to tell you is that information for this form is coming from the assembly information. Now, there are two things. You could just fill up these labels yourself if you like. You can just replace them with whatever you like. But an easy way is this. If you go to your project and to its properties of your whatever you are doing and go to the assembly information, this is where this information is coming from. So the title goes to the title bar. The description will go in that text box. The company will replace the company name. The product will replace the product name. Copyright will replace the copyright and so on. And there is no magic. The information has to be drawn from this file, has already been coded in its designer file. It's already there. That's why it's picking it up from here, right? And you'll say, how do I know? You can look at the designer file in a minute. So set this up that contains the relevant information. I just set it up for you so that we didn't waste time in class. So this information was set up by me, right? And now what will happen is when I run my form, of course, it won't run by magic, but when I do it, when I run my form and I click on about, that information will come from here. Now, if you wanted to change the picture of this form about, sure, you go here, go to your picture box, to image, and I think I've given you a coffee image already. So go to project resource file and pick up the coffee. It will replace that image. So something like the logo of your company, right? That's what you will replace it with. So since the about template is already provided to you, I mean, we usually use it for the about form. You don't have to. Nothing says you have to, right? But if there is a template, why not? Okay. So you can replace it with anything. Now, where is this information? How do I know that this information is coming from the assembly? If I go to the designer file, you will notice, see, no, where is it? This is the layout, but to show you that this information is being drawn from, oh, maybe if you go to its view code, there it is. So for the form, go to the code of the form. So if you have the form, anytime you want to go to the form code, all you do is you say view and code. This is where the information is. See, there's no magic. It says the text has to be replaced by the about, whatever about form. Then the product name is coming from the assembly. And notice this all is coming from the assembly version that the assembly copyright, the assembly company, the assembly description, the assembly version, the assembly title. And I filled that up. I've already filled that up in my assembly information. So if you don't want to use it, all you'll have to do is remove these lines. That's it. Then it won't draw it from there. Right? In your constructor, just remove it and then it won't draw it from there. You want the template, but you don't want the information to be drawn from the assembly information. You want to write your own information? Sure. So you have to understand how things are related to each other. So right now, because it says that I'm going to pick up my information from the assembly information, therefore, when I show this form on the screen, it will pick up that information from the assembly information. And if you don't want it, remove it. This is just a CS file. It's just a file, code file. You can remove whatever you don't like. And see here, they've defined what the assembly title is. It's coming from, if it is not a blank, it will do it. If it is whatever version you've given there, whatever it's, this is all get means get the value, okay? So it's getting it from there. And just because I'm seeing it here, notice there is this directive, end region. The use of region and end region is this. You can kind of click on it and it can expand and collapse. So you can always put hash region and hash end region around a block. And what you can do with that block is you can always collapse or expand. So you'll notice that they use it. It's a directive, right? Therefore it's called hash something. Okay, like your using statements, those are all directives. Okay, now how do I make that form appear on the screen? So double click on about. So when the user, so what does this do? It kind of displays information about the application and the company. That's what it does. Okay, and again here, because these are just event handlers. Who's the sender? The sender is the about menu item. And what is E? These are just the event arguments. So there's not much to write in these event handlers. When you start writing your own methods, then there is more to write. Then you'll have different parameters. You could have an int or whatever and so on. Okay. Okay. So now what do I want to do? What do you want to do when the user clicks on the about? You want to create an instance of that about form and show it to the user, right? So that form was called form about, right? Create an instance of it, whatever you would like to call it. How do you create an instance? Just go new. There's already a constructor defined for you, right? And take your information and show the dialog box. The difference between show and show dialog box, one is modal and one is modal-less. So show dialog, you'll have to respond to it, and then can you change windows? And show, you don't have to respond to it. It can just sit there and you may not even close it. But if it is a show dialog and it comes up, then you have to respond to it. You'll have to either close it or do an OK or whatever. There's already an OK button there. It has already been programmed for you. So you can try both if you like and see the difference. You can try the show if you like. That's how you show an about form. So you create a form, and then of course you will have an about button or about menu item, or there will be an about in the context menu. You've forgotten context, how to create context menus. There is a tool called context menu and you can create it. Okay. And then write this method and it should work. Let's try. So create an object and show it on the screen. Okay. So go to about, see what happens. I didn't place it in the center, so I should be changing its position. It kind of looks odd in the corner, but by default, it doesn't have the minimize and the maximize button. And since I did a show, I can come back here and work on this. That's show. If it was a show dialog, I had to respond to this form. That's the difference between show and show dialog. For about, it really doesn't matter a lot. If it was something like help, I would definitely make it a non-modal one, because let it be open. Whenever I need it, I don't want to go and keep doing help over and over again. It's just open. Whenever I need it, I'll maximize it or minimize it. So that's the difference between show and show dialog. Okay, that's a show. So this information, all this information is coming from that assembly information that I created. And no magic here at all. In the code of this form, it said draw that information from my assembly information. Yes.
So the show just shows all the information in show dialog. What is that?
Show, and it will, I'll show you what it does.
Just like in the startup.
No. Let's see what the show. Let's see what show dialog does. Okay. Let's see what show dialog does. It creates a modal box. Modal box means I can't do anything else till I respond to this dialog. That's a modal dialog box. You have to respond to it. You can't do anything else. That's the difference. Okay. So how do I respond? You can close it if you like. You can do an OK if you like. And the OK is already been programmed to close the form. And I didn't do it. It was in the template. But again, it's there, right? You can always look at it. It's there. And there is no magic. So you have to understand what's going on. So if you go to the design, where are you? Here. You click on the OK button. Oh, so I think by default, there OK has been set somewhere else. I clicked on it and it gave me an empty one. So maybe that's just its default nature that it closes. And to change a form to anything else, you can always come back. So it was not coming, when I used an OK, it wasn't coming on the center screen. I can always go here. Remember that property? What was it? Default position. DD. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, because I'm not on the form. PQRST. Start position. What was that property called? Start position. Yeah, there it is. So it's saying center parent is the start. So if you want center screen, you can do center screen. So in a modal one, it was behaving differently, and in show dialog 1, it was behaving differently. It was coming in the center of its parent. Parent means whoever called it. Who called it? The other form had called it, had invoked. Right? So it's all here. You just have to manipulate it. You just have to know what the properties are. Okay, so that's about. Okay. And as I said, if you don't want to draw your information from the assembly, you will have to just remove this, and that's it. And then just fill in whatever you want here. Right? Okay. Okay, let's come back to more not important, but more stuff now. Okay. Now I can close this one. I don't know if I saved it. Let's close this one so that we can get away with this and this one. We can even close this one and here. So that is very big. So I've taken care of about. Now these are the 4 important ones that I want to work with today. Right? Okay, so what does the application allow you to do? If you see the application, when the application runs, you can choose a coffee flavor and you can choose a syrup from here. The none has been placed at the top. By default, they come in an order, right? And the none, because it has brackets around it. There's the sorted property. There should be a property called sorted. So if I make it true, then doesn't matter how you place it, it will come in a sorted order. If you say sorted is false, depending upon how I placed it, it will come up. So where did I place them? Same thing. There's an items collection here. I placed it in my items. So all these arrays, these are not arrays. These are basically here. I've placed them here. So if you want to place them now, why do we want sorted? Remember, human beings always work better with sorted lists, right? So you can place it in any order, and then you can go sorted, and it will always show it in a sorted order. And I put none in round brackets for the simple reason that it comes at the head when I sort it, because the bracket has the lowest priority, right? So then it's easy to choose none. And I'll make its default also. So if you don't give me a syrup, I'll assume it is none. Okay, so I mean, that can happen, but for a coffee, you'll always have to select it. Okay, so this is the items collection. Please notice its name. It's called items. It's a collection. The difference between a collection and an array is of a fixed size. A collection varies in size. List is an example. You did list before you went for your midterm. We had done a list variable, a list object, not variable object. That's dynamic in nature. An array is not dynamic in nature. There is also an array list in C#, but the array list in C# is a little different from list. Let me explain if you can understand what the difference is. List is a collection of objects of the same kind, all ints, all doubles, all decimals, all whatever, right? All of the same kind. So you have to say, I want a list that can save integers. You have to specify it. Such lists are called generic lists, and they use the system.collections.generic namespace. There it is. That's one. As soon as I use a list, this is the one that becomes active, right? On the other hand, an array list can contain elements of different kinds. You could be putting a string in it, an int in it, another object in it, a decimal in it. So it is a collection of various kinds. So that's better. You can put anything in an array list. Usually you will not require something like that. You always work with same kind of data. But if you want to work with different kinds of data, you can have an array list. And that comes from system.collections. It's not, you have to just change the using statement. They assume you will not use it, so that's not in your default using statements. But the problem, not the problem, I don't know if you would like to call it problem or drawback, but the requirement in array list is when you draw an element out of the array list, you have to cast it. If a string is coming out, you have to cast it into a string. If an int is coming out and you want to use it as a number, you have, because everything is an object. An array list is a collection of objects. Whereas when I define a list, I know they're all strings, so I don't have to cast them. I know they're all ints, so I don't have to cast them. But in an array list, you have to do 2 jobs. One, when you bring it out, you'll have to check what's your type, because you didn't know what was inside it. So you can always check the type. And then once you know the type, you have to cast it before you can use it. So there's more work there, right? So programmers don't prefer to use array list just because they are non-generic in nature. Okay, so that's the difference between an array list and a list. A little different from Java. Java, array list is not that, does not behave that way. It's a collection of the same kind of objects. So keep that in mind for the quiz. Okay, an array list is a collection of objects, any objects, and therefore casting is required when you want to work with the elements inside an array list. That's more work for a programmer. So you can push things, but then when you take them out, you have to say, oh, are you an int? I have to cast you as an int. Are you a string? I have to cast you as a string. That's more work. So programmers don't prefer it. Okay, so let's come back here. So now my aim is I would like to write code for all these. The clear and count are easy. Add and remove will take a little time, and therefore I want to do that with you. So click on add coffee flavor. As soon as you click, now what does this allow the user to do? It will allow the user to add a new coffee flavor to the list. Right? That's what it allows it to do. Under two circumstances. One, of course, if you give a flavor, if it is an empty text box, that's why I need a text box, because I need to enter something. Of course, it must be provided if, and it should not already exist. I mean, I don't want to add the same flavor twice. So I'll take care that the same flavor is not added. So kind of think of the logic. User gives input in that text box. You search if it is already in the list. If it is not in the list, you add it. If it is in the list, you say this cannot be added. And now here is searching of strings. Now here I'll tell you how to work with strings, right? Now, I could be giving something in lowercase and it's present in uppercase. I could be giving extra blanks on either side. It can be anything foolish. So I'll try to do everything. I'll trim it before I use it. I'll change it to all lowercase before I try to find it. I'll do everything that I can do. Or if there are methods that are available in the string class like contains or equals or so on, I'll use them to look for equality case independent. It's not case sensitive. So vanilla is vanilla. Doesn't matter whether I write it in all uppercase or whatever the case is. So I should be ignoring when I'm searching for something, I should be ignoring it. And for your information, there are two kinds of searches. There is a binary search and there is a sequential search. I could be using those methods also if I like. But since I want to do more coding, I'll do it code-wise. But I could always do a sequential search. You can always do a search on a collection. The method is available. Or I could do a binary search and the method is available. And it will tell me whether it is present or not. The binary search says the list must be sorted. I can always sort it. There is a sort method to do. The sequential search, as the name suggests, searches it in sequence. So the list needn't be sorted. So there are always ways of doing things. The aim is that you should know of all of them, but choose whatever is the best option and easiest to write, right? So they are present. Sequential search and sort methods are present. We'll just write a normal add, because I want to talk about string comparisons and so on. I want to do that with you, right? There is no other way in another example that I've done it, or I can do it. So I'll do it here. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to take, if that text user has given me something. It's a blank text box and you're saying add a flavor. Of course, there's nothing to add. So I'll check if it is not empty. I'll go further. If it is empty, I'll say, please enter a flavor to add. Once you give me something, I'll search through what is already present. If it is already in the list, I'll say cannot be added. If it is not in the list, I'll add. Okay? How? You tell me. You can force it, but you can always take it and convert it to uppercase and then compare it. Right? That's all you can do. But you can't say, oh, enter everything in uppercase. Let him enter as or he or she wants. Convert it into all uppercase before you compare it. That's your job as a programmer. Yep, because all they're doing is there is a method as you are entering. There is a text. When you enter something in a text box, there is an event, text change event that happens. You're changing the text. So in that event handler, when you input a character, they're automatically converting it to two upper and showing it to you. But they are doing it, right? So it can be done, but you can force the user. You know what I mean? Like you can say, put in uppercase and you will assume that he'll do it. But you can change it. Keep in mind, there are so many event handlers with any control. You haven't used all of them, but that doesn't mean you cannot use them. I could be entering something in a text box, and when you enter something in a text box, the event, every time you enter something in a text box, the event handler, the event that is invoked is the text change event. You're changing the text. You can put anything you want in it to do it. You don't even need a calculate button to kind of say, oh, your input is wrong. As you enter, you can check as the user is entering. You enter an 8, it says, oh, that's non-numeric, and it doesn't let you enter. So there's so many ways of doing things, right? Because this is a beginning course and we don't have so much time, you can do all the event handlers. But that doesn't mean you can do it. Right? Select index changed. When you select something from a combo box, how will you know something has changed? We've done the select index change method. We've done it with radio button. Radio button checked changed. Similarly, there is a select index change. Put 2 and 2 together, right? Don't just follow one line. Like I mean, try to think, oh, if this can be done, can something else be done? And you'll find answers. It's not possible to go through all event handlers. Okay, so let's do the add coffee flavor. So I'm going to use a Boolean variable. And I'm going to call it item was found. So item found. Please follow conventions. And at what position, you'll see why I need it. Again, and today also I'm going to show you how to write your own methods. I'll also show you that. This is somewhere I can show you how to write your own methods. Okay, so if the user has provided a flavor, how will you check it? Check if the empty, it's not empty. So put an if statement, right? And your coffee combo box is something CBO, there it is, coffee combo box. And all you are saying is if in its text, so that's the text property represents what the user has input. That's what the text property is, okay? We'll trim it. Just if you have extra blanks or neither, right? Trim it means, so if you only put blank, 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 then I trim it means now its length will be 0, right? After I trim it, if it is not equal to string.empty, you can use your opening closing quotes if you like. I prefer to do this. If it is not empty, I would like to do something, and I'll put my else here itself so that as, oh, wow, God knows from where that came. Else I'll put a message box on the screen saying, please input a flavor. So just go your message box dot show. Message box only has a show method, doesn't have a show dialog for your information. And we'll say enter a coffee flavor to add. So don't say something like your text box is empty. What kind of error message is that? It's such a very bad error message. Your text box is empty. Makes no sense, right? What text box? Don't talk about text boxes and combo boxes and buttons to a normal user. Say something like enter a coffee flavor to add. Makes more sense than that, right? So error messages are important. Try to place yourself in the place of a common user and see, will my error message make sense? And again, missing is a better word than empty. The text box is empty. The number is empty. The number is missing makes more sense, right? So it's a little bit of your English lesson also as you do it. Okay, and then your message box is buttons. And you don't even have to memorize. So it's a bad part because I can never remember what comes next. But if you start doing it, it automatically comes. You can give error, you can give exclamation or information, but I mean, it's an error or it's more of an information that you can't leave it empty. If you haven't tried exclamation, go ahead and try that here. And another thing that you must always do, if the user has made a mistake, always bring the focus back to the erroneous field. Now, if something was entered, do a select all. If nothing was entered, it is an empty one, so nothing was entered. Just do a CBO coffee.focus. How long does it take? 1 second. But it's worth marks in your exam. And it's good interface. It's user-friendly interface. The user doesn't have to move their mouse to come back to the text field or whatever it is. It automatically goes there. And if you've made a mistake and you do a select all, the whole thing is selected. You don't even have to go delete. I mean, you don't even have to use the backspace. So friendly user interface is important. I've always said, think if it was given to you, how would you like it? Try running your own code and say, see, oh, it would be better if the user didn't have to do this. Think it that way. And I give you my instructions and you still don't follow them. Then what can I do, right? I can only dock off marks. That's all I can do at the end of the day. Okay, so so something was given by the user. Now my aim is I want to find that was it a new flavor or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call a user-defined method. I'm going to write a method on my own because I have to check this flavor in add also, and I have to check it in delete also. Instead of writing code and copying and pasting, I'll write an independent method. And while I write an independent method, I'll show you a few more things about how methods and what methods are, which you haven't done till now. You've only been writing event handlers, okay? And I forget what chapter it is, but now that the other section is not taking it, I can't force you to take it. So I'm going to write a check flavor method on my own, a user defined. So of course it will say I don't find it. Let it say I don't find it. Do a right click on it. And it says the name does not exist. It says show potential fixes. It says generate a method. Say yes, generate a method. Right? Just say generate a method. For now, for a minute, I won't do it because I'm going to complete my parameter list. Then it will generate the method and it will automatically put the variables in it also. Okay, now what is a method? You've done Java. You're doing your third course in Java, if I'm not mistaken. A method is just code that allows you to do a certain job. It will return a single value, right? And it does a job. That's how methods are defined in object-oriented programming. Till now, at least in my course, all we've been doing since we are doing form applications, we've always been writing event handlers. But that doesn't mean you can't write your own methods. I mean, event handlers are also methods, right? You could have given them any name or whatever and still do it, except that event handlers will only have those two parameters, sender and event arguments. You can change them because they're predefined. So now I'm going to write a method called check flavor, to which I'm going to pass the coffee combo box's text property. So that is a string, right? And I want to show you something. The reserved word out, which you've seen before. Give me 1 minute what it means, and then I'll explain. Maybe you haven't paid attention to it before, but I'm going to explain in a minute. Now you'll have an error. It says, I don't know what it is. Say, oh, okay, generate a method and let it generate it. And what it will do is when it generates it, it will kind of put it right here. Notice it has assumed, rightfully so, that since text is a string, the first parameter is a string. It kept the word out. I'll explain that out in a second. And then it says it should be an int. Why? Because this position variable here was an int. So it created an empty stub for you. And it returns a Boolean value because what have I done? I've assigned it to a Boolean variable. So it was smart enough to create a stub. That doesn't mean you are not smart. You should have done it yourself. But just to let you know. Now, what is this out that I see here? Where else have you seen this out reserved word? MySQL. Okay, in C#, where have you seen it? You've seen it. Try parse. When I do a parse, remember I had also introduced you to try parse. Try parse is another way of parsing a variable and converting it into the type. The difference is it returns a value of true or false. But what is this out? Let me explain what is this out in very generic terms. And this is not language dependent. This is programming dependent. Okay, and Java doesn't have it. So understand it. Now this is what happens. Suppose I call a method M1 with two integer variables x and y. Right? I'm just invoking a method M1. There is a method M1 here. And of course, it has a parameter of type int, another parameter of type int. I'll just call it P and Q for the heck of it, just to give them different names. Okay, so I call this method. What happens? It goes to this method and there is a variable xy here in the calling method with the values 5 and 6. What happens when you invoke this method? The copy of x and y are made in P and Q. That's what happens when methods are invoked, right? The arguments there are copied into two new variables here. Even if you had called it xy, doesn't matter. This xy is different from that xy. This is what happens normally in value type parameters. These are value. Parameters are being passed by value. The value is being passed. Okay. This is called call by value. Java doesn't do call by value, but many languages do. Okay. This is call by value. Now, if in the other sense, so what happens in Java? Do you know what happens in Java since you've done Java? In Java, everything is an object except your basic data types. So basic data types are passed by value. Everything else is passed by reference. Let me explain what this reference is. The difference is this. What is a reference variable? Now for any reason, now you'll have to tell it is a reference variable. So different languages do it differently. I just put the reserved word ref in front of it to say it is a reference variable, reference passer. What happens is when this method is invoked and these parameters are reference variables, this is what happens. X and P, Y and Q share the same memory location, reference address. See the difference in the first call and the second call. If I make a change here, is that change reflected back when I go back? No, because a copy was made. If I make a change here, Does that change reflect back? Yes, because the same copy was being shared. So in call by value, the value is copied. Everything is done with the copy. So when the method finishes and you're back to from where you called, you have no idea what happened to the copy. You have your original value. So if you want to keep the original value, use call by value. Now, if you want to share something, so I have a piece of paper and I say, write your names on it. I don't want to keep the paper with myself and you are writing names on your own papers. How will it reflect on my paper? Attendance. So I say, here is the attendance sheet. Now write your name. So all of you write your name, and when it comes back to me, I have everybody's name. This is called by reference. Right? Now the difference is call by value, no change is made. Call by reference, changes are made. And the advantage, if you see, every method only returns a value. If I want to make changes, or if I want to return more than one value, say an integer, a decimal, or whatever, how will I do that? I'll pass them as reference variables. Anything that goes as reference comes back with changes. That's what a reference variable is. Now in Java, there is a default nature. All basic data types, int, reals, and so on, are passed by value, and all objects, string or any other object, array, list, whatever, is passed by reference. That's its behavior. You can't change. In C#, what you can do is you can make values go by value or by reference. So in my method, what am I saying? I'll pass the text. Right now, since text is a string, it is an object, it automatically passes by reference. And I have put, if I don't put out in front of it, position is being passed by value. So position value will go, which is garbage. It's garbage here, but I can't pass garbage, but whatever goes, goes. And if I do something to position here, I give it a new value. I say position is equal to 5 for whatever reason. That is not reflected back. When I come back, my position is still garbage. But now look at what I'm trying to do. I could put the reserved word ref here, or I could put out. In C#, you can do it two ways. You can either put the reserved word ref or out. They both serve the same purpose. Something goes into the method, and if changes are made, it comes out. If changes are not made, it has its previous value. But it is being shared. The difference between ref and out is, if I use ref here, I'll have to give it some initial value. Like something like this. I have to give it a value. I have to. If I use out, I can use out here. And then I'm saying, oh, it may not have anything. It may have garbage to begin with, but something can come out. So that's the difference between ref and out. But both of them are reference parameters. Okay, so value parameters, values are copied. So anything that is copied and you make changes to the copy in your method, is it reflected back? No. Anything that is passed by reference, we are sharing the same thing. The method that is calling and the method that is being called are sharing the same thing. So of course, if changes are made in the method, whoever called it will see the changes when the method is done. So what am I doing here? I'm passing a variable called position that has nothing in it. It has garbage. Local variables have garbage. When it comes back, it will contain the value where I found that coffee flavor. So position 0, position 1 or 2, and so on. That will give me the position. We'll say, what will you do with the position? I'll tell you what we'll do. I will not need it in add, but I'll need it in delete or whatever. But I'm trying to show you that's how I do it. And there are two ways you can pass by reference in C#. Either you put the reserved word out in front of it, or you put ref in front of it. The only difference is ref variables have to have an initial value, even if it is 0 or if it is something, they have to have some value. So they go and they come back. And in out, you're saying, oh, I have nothing to give you, but I'm expecting something back from you. So you use out. So the advantage, look at the second advantage now. You are controlling how variables are being passed. And the second important use that you cannot do it in a language if it is not available is you can pass 10 out variables and you can have 10 values coming back from the method. Like maybe 4, maybe 5, whatever you like. So one can come through the return, or you can make your return void. And anything that you want to return from the method, you can just make them as out variables. So I could have written one method in which all the calculations are done, addition, multiplication, division, and multiplication, and they're being passed back. So it's not a good thing. One method should do a job, but even if it does a job, it may be creating something like search. I want to say, did you find it? And if you found it, at what position? I want two outputs back. It's a valid thing, right? Searching does what? Searching says, yes, I found it. So I want to say, did you find it? Yes, no. If you found it, where was it? Which position? So I want two outputs back. And now by the method of the definition of a method only returns a value. So if I was saying just give back the position, I'll manipulate. If -1 comes back, it was not found. If it is a value greater than 0, 1, 2, whatever, it was found. So I'm making my own manipulation. But if I said true means found and false means doesn't found, and if it is true, the position tells me where, I have this advantage of getting two things back from the method. And that's what I'm doing here. So this method is going to check if the flavor is present. If the flavor is present, if this is true, it will tell me where it is present. So I'll check. If found it, where was it? Okay. So this is called call by reference. Many languages have it. Java doesn't have it. C# has it. Visual Basic has it. Pascal has it. Python, I can't remember now. So some languages have this way of ref or val or whatever you call it. But some languages just don't give you the option. So Java does not give you the option. It has fixed rules. All data types by value, all objects by reference. But in C#, it's up to you. I've used an int, I'm passing it by reference. If I wanted to pass it by value, I would remove the word out or ref in from front. Okay, objects by default are passed by reference. What is an object? Object is always an address. Right? An object variable always has the address where the data is. So by default, it is reference. Right? So that's what this out means. So you can see an out, you can use a ref. The difference is one needs to be initialized, position, or it doesn't need to be. And you will repeat that out in front here. Right? So that's what out is. Okay, so I mean, I haven't completed it, so let it go for a minute. Okay, so here, that's what this check flavor does. So you have the option of writing your own methods. Nothing stops you at all. And in C#, you have the option of passing parameters either by value or by reference. Okay, so now what I'll do is assuming, we'll write that afterwards. If the item was found, right, then of course, how can I add this flavor? So flavor already present. Else, let's see, how do you add something to a combo box? Right? So again, we'll do a message box here. So this flavor is already present. You can't add a duplicate flavor. We'll write the check in a minute, okay? And I'll show you the various ways of doing check. So we'll say something like duplicate flavor cannot be added. Messages are sentences. So please start with a capital letter. Write it as if you would write a normal English sentence. And titles have to be capitalized, the first word. You can say add failed or unable to add or flavor not added, whatever. Right? So instead of add failed, you can say flavor not added or something, but I've already said duplicate flavor cannot be added. I'll just say add failed. Whatever, you can make it as good as you want. Take your message box button, do an OK. Take your message box icon. This is, again, you could do information or you could do an error. This is more of an error than an information. And you can do a select all anyway. So we'll bring the, oops, focus. Always a good habit. You could have reversed it. I said item found. You could have said if not item found, whatever you like. It's just I'm kind of getting it out of my way. Now, if the item was not found, you want to add the flavor. And like any other collection in any other language that you've done, there is a method that is available. Take your combo box, right? To its items collection, there are two ways. Okay, let me show you the easy way first, because I'm sure you will prefer that. To its items collection, add your flavor. Now you see there are two adds. There is an add and there is an add range. If you kind of think about range means more than one values. So add range is usually used if you want to add some elements from an array into a combo box. So you can convert an array to a list. Items is a collection, right? So if you bring your mouse over it, it will tell you what it is. Adds an array of items to the list. So if you had an array in which you were kind of saving stuff and you wanted to add it to your list, all you have to do is add range, and then it will require some parameters. I'm not adding a range here. What am I adding? I'm only adding a flavor. What flavor are you adding? It says I'll take any object from you. So I want to add that text box that the text entry. There, that's what I'm adding. Be kind enough to make it capital at least. Did you notice something? Names of methods also use Pascal naming convention. Names of methods use Pascal naming convention. Both are capital, unlike camel case in variables. There it is. That's how I add it. I don't have to bother. We all know you've done this in array list in Java, right? Add method. So add is available, remove is available, remove at is available, add range is available. Now, if I tell you that this method is available, I'm telling you 2 methods, you should know the rest of the 8 methods yourself. I can't tell you all the methods that are available in list. Can't happen. Right? So if you're doing an exam and I say, okay, you can go and look at the MSD, and all you have to do is open the collections class, look at its method, and even you don't even have to do that. I mean, see, these IDs are so intelligent. You put a dot and it will show you all the methods. Choose the one that looks familiar, look at its definition and use it. You're in semester 3 now. You can't have this, oh, I didn't know about it, or you didn't tell me. It cannot happen. If you know about add, you should know about add range. If you know remove, you should know remove add. You have to look for things. Do you know all the words in the dictionary? But do you know how to look for them? Same thing, right? Same concept. When you go to Google, you know, if you know how to type, I don't know, integer, do you know how to type float? Yes, it's the same thing, right? You're looking for something. All you have to know is the resource to look for. And you can't blame anybody for it but yourself. So you have to learn to use your resources. Oh, you didn't tell us, or which class was this? Like, can't happen. It really can't happen, right? Okay, so I've added it to my combo box. Easy. I didn't do anything. Why would I use an index value? You could have found, and that was the long way, but I won't do it. I could find out how many in items. Count tells me how many. Then I would have said at count plus 1 added. Why should I do it? I do the add method takes care of it automatically. So don't reinvent the wheel. If something is present, use it. So I should have used sequential search here, because the sequential search would have searched for me. I didn't have to write my own check flavor. But I want to write check flavor for a reason, and I'll show you that reason. And once this is done, take your coffee combo box. Take your coffee combo box. And again, to make it neat, if required, because now I've added it, I'm going to make it blank again. My job is done. Otherwise, it looks very untidy. Spelling is wrong. You could use the double quotes again. So again, it was not required, but if you've added it, now you're just clearing the input, which is what you need to do. Don't do it in the calculator. A student has done it in the calculator. You give 2 numbers, you say addition. As soon as the result of addition is shown, everything goes away. What if I want to do multiplication with the same numbers? I don't want to put them again. You know what I mean? So you have to think, do I need to or do I not need to? Again, user-friendly interface, right? So here you've added it and it's done. That's my add method. Okay, now let's write the check flavor. Make sense? So I could have done sequential search, and you will say, how do we do it? It's not a big deal, guys. All you do is there, it is called sequential search. And if you want to look sequential search in a list in C#, here there are. And I usually go to the MSDN site to look at the whole syntax, but you can just pick up anything you like and click on it and start looking at it. And here are some examples. And all you do is you just say dot something and it will do it. See here. Oops. It's as simple as just writing the method. That's the name of the method. It's called sequential search. So you're performing a sequential search, needs 2 parameters on the array called R, which is an array. You can do it on a list also. And 20, you're looking for the value 20. Now I just have to, it makes sense that it should work. But before I do it, I'll have to see, does it behave differently for strings? Does it do a case sensitive search? Does it do a case insensitive search, and so on? That's all I have to do. In numbers, it doesn't matter. But in strings, it does. And I don't know if they have shown anything. And there is a binary search also. What does binary search do? It does the same job, but it is much quicker. It's much quicker than sequential search. Sequential means one at a time. Are you it? No. Are you it? No. It goes one at a time. Binary search, as the name suggests, binary, just for your information. The list should already be sorted. Suppose I have a sorted list. That's the requirement of a binary search. So what is binary search? Suppose I'm looking for 7. It will kind of take the middle element, binary. If there is not one middle, it takes the two middle elements and takes its average, right? It just takes one of the middle elements. Is 7 greater than 5? Yes. So it doesn't even search here because it can't occur in the lower half. It's already sorted. Then it only searches in the half. So it's quicker than sequential search. But the requirement is that the list must be sorted. You say, who will sort the list? There is a sort method. Sort your list and then search it. Right? So methods are available. Learn how to use them. And you've been learning this from Java. So Java is this much and its library is this much. API. So you have to learn to use both things. Same here. Same with any object-oriented language. How is it different? There's hardly anything different. So therefore, I'm doing forms with you because you don't do forms in Java. So something new, but the language, use of language still remains the same. Okay, so I could have done it, but as I said, I wanted to show you something. Let's come back here. Okay, let's write this. So that's my add. Now let's write check flavor. Okay, so I'm trying to do a kind of a sequential search. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. I shouldn't be doing it, but I'm doing it just because I want to show you stuff. Okay, now this is my own method. So what does this method do? This method searches for a text, right? That's my parameter in the list. And what does it return? So it returns true if text was found, false otherwise. Right? Now, what is this text parameter? It is the string to be searched. Or you can say the item to be searched or the coffee flavor to be searched. I'm just writing it very generally. I'm just saying string to be searched, right? And then what is the position? And remember, there is an out in front of it. So when it says out, what will it have when it finishes off? It will have the position or the index. And again, I won't use index just because index is more, but these comments are for us. So we don't have to worry about the user here. This is for programmers. The position where the string was found. If it was found. If found. If not, then it will return a -1 or something. We'll see what to do with it. So that's our first method that we are writing. A method, like any method in Java, has a name, has a return type, has a list of parameters. The parameters can be called by value, called by reference. For reference parameters, you can use the reserved word ref or out. The difference between the two is out requires that the original value, when it is passed, it has something in it. It has a valid value in it. It could be a 0 or a -1, doesn't matter. Ref says, out says, give me garbage, I'll give you something back. But ref says you have to give me something and then I'll change it, or you have the same thing. That's the only difference between ref and out. So in try parse, your second parameter is out, right? And out. So suppose it's, I don't know if you can kind of make a, suppose I was parsing an int. So if I have an int quantity and I write, it's an integer dot parse. So int 32 dot parse method, and suppose I'm parsing some text box. I'm just calling it number text for the heck of it. You know what? I better not do it, otherwise you'll catch me if I don't use my own conventions. Here. Okay, now if I want to write this as a try parse, the same thing as a try parse, this is how I would write it. I will write try parse, right? And this quantity will become my second parameter. This will become my first parameter, and it returns a Boolean value. If all went well, it was able to convert this number without any problem into an integer. That means no overflow error, no format exception error, no exception, nothing. Then this flag will be true and your value will be in quantity. It doesn't throw an exception. Try parse doesn't throw an exception, but it returns true or false. True, I was able to do it. False, I was not able to do it. That's all it does. The advantage of using parse is that it throws exceptions. So you can catch them in the blocks. If it was a format exception, this is the message I want to give. If it was an overflow, this is the message I want to give. That's the difference. But see how I have used this quantity here. That's how. So this is an out variable. Try parse, you write out in front of it. So try parse has two parameters, the value to be parsed and into which it has to be parsed.
Do you do a default false in the if statement?
In where?
if the default is false in your if-else clause, it's false, it's going to actually input the
No, this will come back. This you're talking about item found?
yes,
No, it will come back. It is being assigned a value.
yes.
So
That the method that it's calling is returning false. And it's an if statement.
no, I haven't yet said anything. I haven't written a method at all. I will write the code to say whether it returns false or true. Right? Here, it is only taking that value and assigning it to this variable. If it was found, I won't add it. But the main method to be written is this, which we are going to write now. So I want to do a search here. Search for this coffee flavor in your list. Yes, Devang.
So in this case, like, if you have like text number, then it will return the quantity.
That value will be converted into an integer and put into quantity. And flag will be true. So if flag is true, you can use quantity. If flag is false, that means something happened. Now what happened? We don't know. But an exception was thrown. So if you want to know what exception was thrown, this is a better way of doing it. If you're only concerned whether it was converted or not, true or false, then this is a better method. But this try parse second parameter is an out parameter. Nothing went into it. It was, you just declare it, right? You just declared it like this. You just declared it like this. So what does it have? Garbage. So it went, something happened here, and everything was okay. It comes back with the value. So you can check. If flag was true, now you can do your calculations. That means quantity came back. Right? So that's how try parse is different. You can always check if something, now if it was if it is false, you can say the input was wrong. Now what was wrong with it, we don't know. Then we'll have to check again. You know, so there is more checking to be done. Was it because it was out of bounds? Was it because it was not a number? So therefore I prefer to use parse because of what I have done. But try parse is available and it has this second parameter is an out parameter, something I'm using here. Okay, let's write the check flavor now. Okay, so to this position, I'll start by assigning a -1. I'll start by assigning a -1. Don't worry about this squiggly. You can bring your mouse. It is saying it doesn't return a value because I haven't yet returned a value. I don't have a return statement, so I can ignore it for now. Okay, so to begin with, I say position is false. And whenever it is found, I'll change its position. Okay, so now I'm going to look for it. So I'm going to write my own sequential search. So there is a for loop and there is a for each loop. In the for loop, it is the programmer who has to initialize the variable, go till the end of the list, increment it every time. All that headache has to be done by the programmer. And the for each loop is called for each, is written as for each in C# with the word for each. And what are you going to do? Both will work. Object, item. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you why did I write this. Okay, so that's a for each loop in C#. It goes through all the, it's also called items, all the elements in this collection called items. Remember I told you the name of the collection is items. In a combo box and in a list box, it's called items. It's not items like we say items. It is called items, the collection. So it will pick up one item at a time from this collection called items, and it will give it to this variable called item. Now, by default, combo boxes and list boxes collections are collections of objects. It doesn't know what you're going to save in it. So it just says they're objects. So when you take out something from an items, which is an integer, this type will be int. If it was decimal, this will be a decimal. Now, since items is a collection of objects, what's coming out of it is of what type? Object. So for each loop, this is the syntax of the for each loop. You must know it in arrays and collections. It uses the reserved word in. This is a list or an array. It could be anything, a list or an array. This is just a local variable. You could have called it anything. X will also do, though we don't use bad names, but X will also do. The type of this X has to match the type of this list. And by default, items is a list of objects. Okay, so that's what it is. You could have used a for loop. Can you help me with a for loop? It will take more time, but I'll try. Okay, so I start with the position 0. I go on till where? your coffee combo box dot items dot count. Here I have to go, I have to find out how many do I have. Count is already available. It's like length in strings. Count says how many. So you start from 0, so you go until count -1, right? And every time you will have to increment I yourself. Okay, now which of these two fors is easier and more easy to understand? The second one. I don't have to think about I start from 0. I don't have to think about till where I go. I don't have to increment it myself every time. Why will I bother using the for? Right? But you should know to write both loops for your quiz or for an exam or just being a programmer. Okay? Okay, so now let's do it. So I'm picking up one object at a time from my coffee combo box, and I'm incrementing my position up by 1 because I started with -1. So it was important to start with -1. Now, to compare the strings, if the text you have given me equals, there is the equals method. There are many ways of doing it. This is the easiest one. What am I doing? I'm going to take the item that I took out of the list, but remember that's an object. So I have to convert it into a string. It's an object, so I have to convert it into a string. And just to be sure that it doesn't have any blanks, I trim it also. Do I have an extra one? Uh-oh, very good. What am I doing? There, one error, there. Okay. So equals method, I could have used 2 equals to in strings. I can, C# allows you to do it, but I am writing a method so that it kind of pricks your brain. Oh, there's an equals method. What if I want to do case insensitive search? What if I want, then you'll kind of look for more. So I'm going with equals, right? Now, just for your information, how many pair here, trim here, comma, right? There are 3 overloaded methods of equals. Yes. No, this is coming out of the combo box. This item is coming out of the combo box. I've trimmed the item out of the combo box. My text was trimmed. The input I gave was trimmed. Now I'm comparing it with something else. Like in your items, maybe you gave extra blanks on either sides. Who knows? I'm just trimming it, right? Now, for your information, equals method is not case sensitive. So vanilla with a capital V is not equal to vanilla with a small v. You'll say, oh, the whole purpose is lost. Now, do I convert it to all uppercase myself or all lowercase myself and do it? You take the input from the user, convert to all lowercase. Take the input from the combo box, convert it to all lowercase, and then compare. That's one way of doing it. For your information, there is another way. And that another way is, tell the system that the comparison I want to do, should be, and in a minute, I'll tell you what is current culture ignore case. Though the name suggests it, but still I will. Now let me look at it. Let's look at it together. What have I done? So you could have in C# use the 2 equal signs. Then it was your headache to take the 2 strings, trim them, convert them both to lowercase or uppercase, and then compare them. Because only then can you tell they're equal or not. Okay? They have to match. The other way of doing it is you use the equals method, and there are many more methods. I'm just using an equals method. When I searched for it, I got much more. In the equals method, when I tried it, it wouldn't work. So I said, what's going on? Then I found out it was not case sensitive. So a vanilla with a capital V is different from a vanilla with a small v. I said, now what? Do I have to do the same job, convert it into lowercase and so on? Then I found out if you want to, like equals ignore case in Java. I was trying to look for that. Equals ignore case in Java, you just add as a third parameter. You just say, so this says I want to compare text with this item. That's what you're saying. I want to compare it. Are they equal? But I want to do my comparison ignoring the case. So this current culture ignore case is an enumerated constant that belongs to the string comparison class. And I'm saying, please compare them ignoring the case. Now, what's this culture? Now, in C# you can use different languages. English, Chinese, whatever, Portuguese, whatever students I have in my class. I don't think Indian is there, right? Okay. So now when you say current culture, the culture says whatever culture has been set up in your environment, I use that culture to ignore the case. So see, it's giving you much more. So you can set the culture. For right now, the culture in Visual Studio is set to English. Like that's the language that is commonly used, but you can always change the culture. And culture has to do with language. So I've used ignore the case in that language.
Is that also used for currency?
I didn't check, but that makes sense. Should something you should be able to do something in currency with culture. Yep, I'm sure, because that's what the culture is about. So go and Google it a little and see. I'm only giving you a rough idea. That's how what I didn't read 50 pages, but I read what I needed to read, and that's what it meant. Okay. So again, when I'm looking for things, I'm researching too. Like I thought equals ignore case. Because I did Java, I thought equals ignore case. I couldn't find equals ignore case, but there is an equals method that is overloaded that allows you to say ignore the case. So instead of using the two equals, trimming it, converting it into all lowercase or whatever, I say whatever you give me, I'll compare it with ignoring the case, and that's all we have to do. Okay, so that's the equals method with a parameter. So I say if you find it, where are you? Okay, so if you find it, so if it equals it, that means you found it, right? So what must you do? You must finish. Your job is done. Return true. Why should you even look further? So I have done a sequential search, but my sequential search is a little smarter in the sense that as soon as it says, oh, you found it, go back. What is the sense of looking more? Like a flavor will only occur once. A sequential search, you can search for all its occurrences also. I'm only looking, I know there is only one flavor. I say you found it, return true. So the whole loop doesn't go on. And again, it's more, my loop is effective because as soon as I find it, I go back. It returns a true, it returns me the position. It returns the position automatically. In which parameter? The position parameter. Automatically. So I manipulated it. Right? Now, if you didn't find it, that means you searched the whole thing and you didn't find it. What must you return? False. And what will go back? Oops. And what will go back in position? -1, which tells you that it was not found. So if found, position is valid. If not found, the position is invalid. Don't even use it. So you are writing the method. You should know how the method works. So the whole purpose of showing you this was to show you the equals method and show you that you can do equals without case and equals with case. So if there is an equals, there is more. There is also compare. There are a few options. Okay, I found equals to be the easiest, so I used it. So there is my check flavor. I'm still getting a problem.
Shouldn't you return false after the which?
Oh, do I have it at the wrong place? Yes, I have it at the wrong place. Absolutely. That's why it's giving me an error. It's not in the for. When my for has finished, so what am I missing? One more bracket? No, it should be there. I'm just not seeing it. Okay, so here, right? That's one advantage of 2017. It kind of lines up. It puts lines. So I usually should not go wrong. Definitely it's out of the for each. Logically. Why am I putting it in for each? Everything finished. I couldn't find it. Return a false. So now see, William, what's going back from here is either a true or a false. And that gets assigned to item found. Then you check. If it is true, it was already in it. You don't add it. If it was false, you add it to your coffee list. Right? So the check flavor checks if it is present and returns a true or a false. If it is true, that means you found it. Then you can't add it again. But if you didn't find it, then you can add it. Let me show you that this add works. And then I'll give you a break. Okay? Then I'll give you a break. So did you get it? In this small method, we've done quite a bit. We've done a for loop, a for each loop. We've done methods, call by value, call by reference, and how values are returned. So we've done, therefore this method took time. Now the delete will be easy to do. The check flavor is available. I'll just call it and I'll do it. Okay, so we've learned quite a few things in this small method. Call by value, call by reference is also learned in this method. Okay, now let's see if it works. So run your program. Okay, try to add a flavor. So these are your flavors that are already present. I'm just going to pick one this up because I know that it's already present. Okay, so let's leave it empty first. Let's leave it empty. What should you get? Enter a coffee flavor to add. Title all capital, guys. I've written it again. I'm still giving this. After assignment 3, if you're still making these mistakes, you know what? You really didn't prepare for the test. Title needs to be capitalized. It's called capitalized notation. Every word is in capital, the first letter. It's just how English grammar is, guys. It is, right? This is like a sentence without a period. You don't put periods, but it's like a sentence, like normal English sentence. Don't start with a small e. Okay, the icon, I mean, I don't want to give anything else. I'm trying to give a warning kind of. You could use a warning here. I think this was an exclamation. You could give a warning. It's not as if you made an error, but you forgot something. So use the right one. Okay, and there is the OK button. Okay, so now let's try to give this one absolutely same spelling, same case, right? And let's try to add. What should I get? Duplicate flavor cannot be added, right? Now let me try to add the same flavor, but just for the heck of it, make my T capital. Just to show you that this match it's still vanilla nut. So my equals is working. Try that equals without that comparison thing, and it will add that nut with the capital T. I don't want that. Okay. Now, of course, if you kind of change blanks in between, now this is not the vanilla nut. That vanilla nut had one blank in between. Trims are different. Trimming is trimming from the sides. Trim doesn't trim it from the middle. You may want those blanks. This will be added. And it gets added. And notice after adding it, I removed it from here, but it gets added here. And if this list was sorted, it will go in a sorted order. If it was unsorted, it will just add it. There it is. It works. Right? Now let's take Kona blend, and I'll just put blanks in front of it. I'll put blanks at the end of it. And I'll just make all my Kona capital. Right? So there are blanks in front, blanks at the back. Of course, the middle blanks matter, and the Kona is capital. I should be able to add, should not be able to add this. Oops, what did I miss then? Didn't I trim my text? Something went wrong somewhere. So now we know that we've made a mistake. Kona blend got added. So what could be the problem? Okay, so something in our code. And you take a break and I'll check what happened. Something that I must have done, of course. Add coffee flavor. I trimmed it here. Oh, the problem is here. I didn't trim what I sent. I mean, here I use the trim function, but only to check if it was empty. Here I didn't send it. There it is. Trim it and send it. There it is. We got it. Before you send it, trim it. I didn't send the trimmed version. I sent it like that. I didn't trim it. I didn't remove my extra blanks before I sent it for search. Now I've removed my extra blanks and then I send it for search. Using trim here doesn't change the original, guys. It's only for use. Take my text, trim it, and see if it is empty. If you want to save it, then you'll have to assign it. I just trimmed it for use. So now it will work. It should work. I didn't trim it. My mistake. It has to be your mistake. Can't be anybody else's mistake. The equal we've already done, or the uppercase. There it is. Right? So it will work. So the problem, the error is always the programmers. If it's not working, you've missed something. Okay, we'll take a break. Please take 20 minutes break, come back, and then we'll do the delete and the count and so on. Right? There is much to do. Please come back and we'll do it. I'll put this on GitHub. Offline? Okay.
How do you know whether or not we have to take the each position or something every time, like the variables?
It depends on what you want. I need it, so I took it.
But in this program, why did you take
I'll need it in delete. I don't need it in add, but I'll need it in delete. So because I wanted to write one method, I don't want to write two methods doing the same job. Add doesn't use it, that's fine. But delete will use it, so I'll use it there.
delete will use the position?
To the position, yes. That's why I've done it. Okay?
Help and all on the top of that, it is the menu strip.
Sorry, come again?
Like the help.
Yeah, that's a menu strip.
Menu strip.
Menu strip. I've put it on GitHub, okay, guys? I don't have my power cord today, so I'll hibernate it.